Welcome or welcome back on WatchAdvisor on YouTube. It's Alexander speaking, your host, and today I have the pleasure to present you the new OMEGA Speedmaster Moonwatch, now powered by the OMEGA Calibre 3861. On your left side, the version with the hesalite class, and on your right side in your picture, the version with the sapphire-crystal. Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell to get our latest notifications. Of course, I will also show you the Sedna Gold version, but not in this video that is dedicated to the steel versions. So please check out a separate video to discover the Speedmaster in a Sedna Gold, now also powered, of course, with the new Calibre 3861. The Speedmaster in your picture right now is the version with the hesalite class, and it has a case diameter of 42 millimeters, a so-called lug to lug distance. If you're not aware about lug to lug, is the distance I measure from here, from the end of the lug to the other lug, is 47 millimeters, and the case thickness is 13.58 millimeters, 13.58 millimeters, slightly thicker than its, let's not say rival, but its option. I would call it option. The one with a sapphire crystal, I will show it to you just afterwards. The version with the hesalite is slightly thicker, yes. Why is this the case? I want to explain you. The hesalite glass, as you see it actually in the picture, is slightly domed. This is necessary to get enough tension to fix the glass in the case and to give it flexibility as is it necessary when it is heating up or when the watch is in cold conditions. So the fact that it is domed makes the watch a little bit thicker. But all the other dimensions are equal with the version, the alternative with the sapphire crystal. Here is the sapphire crystal. As I just said, same dimensions, but in terms of thickness of the case, we have a little bit less. The sapphire crystal version has a thickness of 13.18 millimeters, 13.58 for the hesalite and 13.18 for the sapphire crystal. You can clearly see, as I continue to show you the watch from the side, that the sapphire crystal is not domed, that's flat. The sapphire crystal also has an anti-reflective treatment on the inner side. This is something the hesalite does not have, but all the other features as the lug and the case diameter are the same. 50-meter waterproof, both watches. Of course, both models are 50 meters waterproof, and the main difference is, of course, yes, clearly, it's the sandwich construction, as many of you call it. So you have a sapphire crystal on the back and you have a sapphire crystal on the top. This makes the difference. So next I will show you the difference on the dial. In your picture again, the version with the hesalite class. So what's the difference if we look at the dial? The principal dial is the same, it's a black varnished step dial, hour makers with super luminova with green emission, and with a domed minute and a domed central second hand. So this is common to both watches, but if you look closely to the Omega logo, the version with the sapphire crystal features a applied logo, diamond polished applied logo, and the version you have in your picture with hesalite features a classical, as they call it, transferred Omega logo and Speedmaster Professional indication and minute track in white color. So this is not applied, it is painted, printed, and then surface is taken off and then it stands out. So that's the main difference. I cannot tell you if the size of the Omega word or the size of Speedmaster and Professional are absolutely equal to the sapphire crystal version. This is something I did not find out, but I will show you the sapphire crystal with its beautiful new and first time applied Omega logo. There's something special on it. You can see it here. When I get with my pointer over it, there are some reflections and you can clearly see that's a three-dimensional logo that has been applied on it. It's diamond polished, and this is the particular thing. We have seen lots of those Omega logos on the dial of Speedmaster watches, and for the very first time the logo you see here is identical to the corporate logo of Omega. So Omega has been working to really develop a logo that is identical to the corporate logo. There is no more bold or no more this or no more that. So this is the corporate logo of the brand, and now you find it on the dial of the new Speedmaster when the Speedmaster is, as I just said before, equipped with a sapphire crystal. All the rest is identical to the version with the hesalite class. We have the running second positioned at 9 o'clock. We do have the 12-hour counter being positioned at 6 o'clock. And of course, the minute counter, instantaneous minute counter, we can just follow it. Look what happens when the central second hand hits. There you go. This is instantaneous. So everything is the same. You have the black varnished step dial with the 3 sub counters. What I just mentioned before, I am not sure, I can't tell if the Omega writing, the Speedmaster and Professional, is absolutely in size identical with the hesalite version, but I think so. I couldn't make up a difference by just looking at it. One other big difference in between the version with the sapphire crystal still on your left is the fact that the bracelet has some polished and some brushed parts. You see here there are some polished parts, left and right from the middle, and some brushed parts. And if I just turn the camera to the right, this is the version with the hesalite glass, and you don't see those being applied here. The bracelet with the sapphire crystal might be the more, let's say, lifestyle version or the more stylish version, whilst the completely matte polish version is more probably the tool watch, if we want to call it the way, and maybe also the more authentical and the more real Speedmaster of the two. Both of the Speedmaster feature the exactly same system with a folding clasp. As you see here, there's no difference. The difference is that those polished links. Even the 18 karat Sedna Gold version features the same clasp, but of course done in 18 karat set a golden knot in stainless steel as we see here. A push piece, 2 push pieces to be exact, to open and close it. And I will take the version with the hesalite and to quickly show you the functionality. So you have that functionality to open and close it. You press and then you need to apply both of the push pieces to reopen it. Very nicely done. But, now comes my real concern, criticism, flaw, whatever you want to call it. Everything here has been developed from scratch. The bracelet you see here did not exist before because it is, and many of you know that, it is a kind of a mixture of different bracelets we have seen before on the Speedmaster. So everything has been developed from scratch, including the clasp and the push pieces and everything. And what is missing and what I would have liked to see is the possibility for adjustment of the length. I think they should have probably taken some more time or postponed the launch of the watch or whatsoever, or I don't know, but they simply should have done it and offered you the possibility, or as an alternative, if someone doesn't need it or doesn't want to pay the little extra for an clasp with an adjustment, but offer it. And they didn't do, and I think this is a little bit disappointing. So you have a clasp and you have not the possibility to fine adjust the length. Yes, you can. Some will say, okay, that's not true. Yes, you could. Okay, you see the 2 holes here? You see the 2 holes there? And let me just grab the tooling I've prepared. There is the possibility, yes. You can use the 2 little holes. If you have a tooling like I show here in the camera, there is a spring bar and you push on it and then you can move diagonal the 1 spring bar from one hole to the other, and it will then clip in here. Then you turn the watch around, the clasp, and you do the same by pushing on the spring bar and by advancing it in the clasp to the other hole, and then you can adjust. You see here there is a little piece that you can adjust. You can adjust the length, but you need tooling, at least something similar. Let me point it again here, something like this, a little pointer or something you use to press on the spring bar to move it. But it could have been done easier, in my humble opinion. So if you need to do more than this adjustments, you have lots of links that are screwed in. As you can see, there are screws in here. I've been counting 12 links on both sides, so this configuration is much too big for me. This is a configuration I would probably have to take out 3 on both sides or something like this. So a configuration that is really ready for a big wrist if you have one. And of course, now the question is 24 links in total, the same here, no difference. I've just been ticking off that little spring bar I was talking about to be able to show you the one with the sapphire crystal back, to show you the movement afterwards. So I have been dismantling it already, but we have 24 links in both of the watches. And now the big question is the weight. What's the weight? The version with the sapphire crystal, same configuration, 138 grams. And to make the story short, the version with the hesalite glass, 136 grams. 2 grams more for the version with the sapphire crystal. I'm also very happy to see and to discover that Omega did not try to evolve the Speedmaster, the legendary Speedmaster, with any kind of material in the bezel, either ceramic, whatsoever it could have been. It is, as it was, a polished stainless steel bezel with aluminium ring featuring a tachymeter scaling type with the done. It's the dot over 90. You have discovered it already, I'm sure. So that's the dot over 90, a little extra for collectors who very much are keen to have it. So the dot is over the 90 and not symmetrical, as also bezels do exist. For instance, the one here, mine from 1989, has a symmetric dot. So happy to see that. Aluminium, there was no need, absolutely no need for ceramic inlays or playing around with any of these modern materials. It is the Speedmaster, and the goal was and is to keep it as authentical as possible. Before I can show you the distortion the hesalite glass is causing, have a quick look and you can see that the central second hand is domed as well as the minute hand. But now watch what happens when the hand comes and I'm turning it, and you see there is distortion caused through the hesalite glass. That's something you can't change. That's also interesting when you're keeping to turn it. Whoops! Ha! There is nothing more to see. And then it comes back. And maybe some of you have already seen the embossed OMEGA logo on the dial. It's here in the center. They have been, they are displaying their logo on the hesalite glass, and I do now try to show it to you by playing a little bit around with the glass, causing some distortions, and so you're probably able to see it. The OMEGA logo is embossed on the center, just above the central hand and the minute and the hour hand, where they meet in the center of the watch. I'm sure you have seen it meanwhile. And once again, nice to see the distortion caused. And yes, when I follow the move, the central second hand swiping over the dial, you can see that the hand is domed as well as the minute hand. And the same applies to the crystal, and I will show you this now. With the sapphire crystal, I do now try to reproduce the effect we had with the hesalite, and guess what? No, it's not possible. Of course not. Even if I choose a very steep angle, no way, you still see something. Okay, there's a certain moment, then you don't, but until then you see something on the dial, and there are no such distortions, but clearly to see also here a domed minute hand. And as soon as Mr. Central Second Hand will arrive, I can show you, here you are, and I will turn the watch a little bit in the camera so you can follow the steps and you see it also domed. Interesting enough, I learned from OMEGA that the manufacturer of the hands, Universo, is now doming, or is now manufacturing those hands with that little domed effect on the end. And this was not the case before, because before that it was the watchmaker who was adjusting this hand, and he was applying his knowledge. And sometimes I learned OMEGA Speedmasters were sold with domed hands and some with no domed hands. So if you have one with hands that are not domed, this was caused by the watchmaker who assembled the watch, and probably he was not in the mood that day to do it. Now it's Universo, the manufacturer of the hands, of course, doing it, and you get the best possible quality, and there is no more exception of the rule, I would call it. Now comes the most technical part of this video, and probably the one little detail some of you already recognized and discovered on the dial of the new Speedmaster. I will be very happy to read in your comments afterwards if you were aware of that or if you were not aware of what I'm going to tell you right now. So please concentrate on the fact that we are now taking a reading from the dial. The seconds are read of the minute chapter ring, where each graduation denotes 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Fractions of a second, which depend of course on the frequency of the balance and hairspring, can be read as part of the minute graduations. And in the case of the Speedmaster that is in your picture, I said that before, that's one of my Speedmasters coming from my collection, dating back from 1989, but don't think that they changed anything until the latest generation of the Speedmaster that is still sold and still being produced. In between, as I just said, the fraction of a second is being displayed by 4 little dots on the dial of this Speedmaster. And this is something that I always criticized, but Omega always said, no, we're going to stay loyal to the design, to the original design of the Speedmaster. And why did they do it? In the beginning, the Speedmaster was sold with a movement, D321, the Calibre 321, and the balance wheel was oscillating with 18,000 semi-oscillations, 2.5 Hertz. And so the second hand was swiping over the dial, dividing each second in 1/5 of a second. And if you wanted to read the fractions of a second, and if you wanted to read something when you were making a measurement, then you were using those 4 dots and you were counting in between the seconds. You were counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you reached the next full second. Once again, you have 4 little dots and you count when the second hand comes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the division, the graduation for 1/5 of a second. And always Omega kept it the way, they didn't change it. Even though, meanwhile, also my watch is powered by another movement. It's no longer the 321, it's the 861 that powers this Speedmaster. And the 861, the frequency was changed to 3 Hertz, from 2.5 Hertz to 3 Hertz. So no longer 18,000 but 21,600 semi-oscillations. And this means 3 Hertz or 1/6 of a second. So all the Speedmasters, after the ones that were powered by the 321, do have a false graduation on the dial because the second central hand, is swiping over the dial in the speed or in the division of 1/6 of a second. Also this one, 1/6 of a second, this is not differently possible because the movement, the balance wheel is oscillating at 3 Hertz. And so you couldn't take any correct measurement from the graduation you found on the dial of this Speedmaster. Until now. And now comes the major and for me essential change of the new dial of the new Speedmaster. So what do you see now? No longer those legendary 4 dots. Instead, you see 2 dots. To make a correct reading, you should, or Omega had 2 possibilities. Either add to the 4 dots you saw on the old Speedmaster another dot, so you have 5 dots separating. To read the fraction of a second, you have 5, then you would have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in between those seconds. But the more smarter and the version many other watch brands, watch manufacturers do it is to only print 2 and to count on the dot and beside or in between the dots. So once the minute hand, the second hand comes, you will see it swiping over the dial, and you can clearly see that it is once in between, on, in between, on, in between, on. And if you count correctly, the in between, as the amount of spaces you have with the two dots, you come to the 6, the 1/6 of a second. That's what also the new 3861 coaxial master chronometer certified Calibre of Omega. That's the balance frequency of that movement. And now finally you can use your Speedmaster and read a correct, and you can make a correct measurement, and you can read the correct time you have been taking a sports event or whatsoever. So once again, watch now when the hand swipes over, and you can clearly see from 1 second you have those fractions, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you come to the next second, and this is how it should have been done earlier. But Omega was loyal to the other dial, to the old dial, and only with the new generation of the Speedmaster they finally corrected it. And this is the first generation of Speedmaster, after the ones being powered with the Calibre 321, that have a completely correct dial with a completely correct graduation, since the hand is swiping over the dial in the speed of 1/6 of a second. And if you want to read something correctly from a dial, that you need this kind of graduation to read the fraction of a second. A little bit complicated, but logical in the end. And now finally we do have that, what I always wanted them to do, a Speedmaster chronograph displaying correctly what its movement is literally producing. Postscriptum, that graduation on the dial, I can tell you, if you now think that I got a little bit crazy, no, I'm not. Also, the Rolex Daytona has a wrong display, and lots of the Patek Philippe chronographs do as well display the wrong graduation on their dials. Just take the Rolex Daytona. The graduation is 1/5 of a second, as it is seen, as you saw it just in the pictures on the old Speedmaster, and the Daytona has a movement that is a 4 Hz, 28,800. So on the dial you read, or the hand swipes with 1/8 of a second, and the graduation is 1/5 of a second. It is now time to have a closer look to the new Calibre 3861, being officially certified by Metas as a master chronometer. So whilst I am giving you some details, please enjoy the pictures I took from the movement in different angles, etc, etc. So the movement you see is more or less identical to the 861 and then later 1861, just with the difference that Omega got rid of all parts in it that do have a magnetic remnants. So all parts that could be magnetized have been replaced with parts that are no longer magnetized. We do have now a silicon hairspring, a coaxial escapement free levels with an EVA shock absorber. And the new movement, the geometry. So let me quickly come back to with my pointer. So the geometry or the design is exactly the same. The huge balance wheel was kept. No difference to the old movement. It's the same huge balance wheel. The design of the bridges, the watch or the chronograph is still operated by a cam system. It's not a column wheel. So if you think that, or if you were thinking that this is a column wheel operated chronograph, no, it is not. It is cam operated 2-level cam here. I will show you it. I will take it in my hands. Let's go back to the other pictures I've been taping while I'm telling you more about it. So As I said, the watch is officially certified by Meters, manual winding chronograph, 26 jewels, frequency, we heard that already, 21,603 Hertz. Power reserve now is 50 hours, and the watch is adjusted to 0 plus 5 seconds. So that's the main advantage today. Omega free sprung balance, yes, silicon balance spring, I already mentioned all these things, and it has a luxury finish, Geneva waves and circular graining, rhodium plated, gold plated engravings, and the chronograph mechanism with satin finish surfaces and polished beveled edges, so luxury finish as you expect it from such a movement. So this is the start stop push piece, and there is a so-called main operating lever that will, when I push on it, turn the cam and then force the so-called intermediate chronograph wheel bridge, that's the intermediate chronograph wheel bridge, with the intermediate chronograph wheel here that is attached to the intermediate chronograph wheel bridge, the lever, the intermediate chronograph lever, the intermediate chronograph bridge, and the intermediate chronograph wheel. And once from the main operating lever, the force is, my force, by pushing the push piece, is transmitted to the cam. This will stimulate, or as a reaction to it, the intermediate chronograph wheel will connect, or in this case it is already connected, to the central chronograph wheel you have in the middle of the picture, and this makes or starts and stops the chronograph. So you push, the cam is transferring your order to this system with the intermediate chronograph bridge and wheel, and then they will connect to the central chronograph wheel, and then the chronograph starts to run. What you see here prominently on top, oh, I just pushed it, yeah, it's still there where it should be. Oh, lucky. It's always difficult to bring these watches into position, so I can perfectly film them. What you see prominently here is the so-called return to zero hammer that will apply on the chronograph hearts and reset the counter, the minute counter, and the central second counter to 0. I will show you this right away. I've turned the Speedmaster around to be able to manipulate the start-stop push piece. And already now, please watch, you can see the main operating lever when I slightly push on it, and you can see that there are a couple of parts moving, and you see this main operating lever. Now watch closely. I've been stopping the chronograph, and what will happen when I push on it, what will happen is what I have been describing before. This wheel will connect to the central chronograph wheel, and then the chronograph will start to run. There you go. I do it again so you can follow on your screens what I'm showing to you. Disconnected, and I come a little bit closer, hoping it still stays sharp. I will try to bring some reflections, and then you can better see it. There you go. Do you see connecting it through the main operating lever that is pulling on the cam, a 2-level cam, and I've been disconnecting the intermediate chronograph wheel from the central chronograph wheel, and the chronograph in this case stopped, and now I am activating it again. This is how a cam operated system works. Basically, that's basics I've been quickly showing you. And I've been also talking about the so-called return to zero hammer. That's this prominently visible, here, prominently visible hammer. And this will now push on the hearts that are part of the central, second, and of course the other counters, and force them to go back in their zero position. So watch closely what happens. There you go. So the reset is done. The chronograph now is reset to zero. And of course, since this is not a flyback chronograph, when the chronograph is started, I cannot apply any. I can apply, of course, I can push the push piece, but nothing will happen with the return to zero hammer because it is blocked. Would it be a flyback chronograph? Then I could, during the chronograph still is running, before stopping it, I could reset it, but this is not the case with the Speedmaster. I need to first reset it, stop it with the start-stop push piece, and now I can apply the so-called return to zero hammer. There you go. Reset to zero. This is the basics. And this is what the 861, 1861 and 3861 share in common. No difference. The only difference is, so we do have a much more modern escapement. It is a coaxial escapement, latest generation of Omega. We have a silicon balance, a balance spring, and Omega got rid of all components in the chronograph that in theory would be affected by magnetism, and so there are no more parts in the movement that can be severely affected by strong magnetic fields, and this is the reason why the entire movement is able to withstand magnetic fields up to 15,000 Gauss. What else does the 3861 movement, the first time in history of the Speedmaster, offer? I think some of you know it already, and you have been waiting for me to show it. Yes, you do have a stop second, meaning when I pull out the crown, that's what I'm doing now, you see the balance wheel stops. You clearly see it. I will point with my pointer on the balance wheel. This is the balance wheel, and you can clearly see it stopped. So you can use this function to precisely adjust the watch to a time reference, GPS, whatsoever you're using. Look, I'm pushing and it starts oscillating again. And this was not the case before. The classical Speedmaster 1861 did not have that feature. So from the other side, if you are not sure what I have been just showing you, let me just take the hands away so we have clear visibility on. Oh, perfect. That's a nice coincidence. I've been pulling out the crown and you see the second hand has stopped exactly at 0 or 60. So if we would now use a time signal to set the watch, for instance, at 11:05, so we would go there, set the hands, we would wait, beep, 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 beep. Okay, then we go and we can, wrong button. Alexander, please. Once again, beep, beep, beep. And then when the long beep comes, of course, we press the crown and then the second starts to swipe again. I was using the start-stop push piece. Wrong button, but you understood what I wanted to tell you. Okay, once again, I'm pulling out the crown. The second hand stops. You can clearly see this. We pull in again, push in again, and then it starts. First time that this is a feature the Speedmaster offers. If you're deciding to go for the version with the hesalite glass, you don't get that spectacular view on the movement, but instead you get the typical caseback of an OMEGA Speedmaster with all these engravings on it. A flight qualified by NASA in 1965 for all manned space missions. The first watch worn on the moon, and as it is now a coaxial master chronometer, officially certified, etc. Also, these information is giving to you. I would go for the hesalite version to already tell you now which one is my favorite. Yeah, I know some of you now will say, oh, how can you? It's the beautifulest thing is to have a view on the movement. Yes, it is, but I know how it looks, I know how it works, and I'm very much, I'm a big fan of keeping everything as it is. So the watch has been modernized where it was necessary, and everything else kept the way as it was, and this is something I very much appreciate, and kudos, yes, to Omega that they resisted. I can literally see the guys of product management thinking about maybe adding a ceramic bezel and other things. Oh, I'm so happy they didn't do. Since we are filming in 4K and really delivering the best possible quality on your screens, you might probably already have discovered some little scratches or yeah, some parts of the Speedmasters that I have been showing you that were not perfect. Yes, what do you read? Not for sale. This is indicating you that these are watches coming from an Omega collection that is moving around, that is being shown to the retail, that is being shown to me, to the press, and to people being interested in those new watches. And of course, when you manipulate the watches, when you touch them, some scratches may occur, things may happen. So this is due to the fact that it is a moving collection. When you will buy the watch, of course, they will not look like this, and they will be perfect. So what about the lume and the dark shot we always deliver? Look, the new Speedmaster features a white super luminova with a green emission, and you can clearly see the minute hand, the hour hand, and the central second hand having super luminova, and you can perfectly read the time. The good thing is that after charging the watch, the luminescent will remain for a long time, so readability is guaranteed over a long period. Looking very nice, and as it should be for a very modern and a very cool watch. Let me come to an end of this video I really very much enjoyed, and tell you I already did which is my favorite. Yes, it is the one with the hesalite glass. Still, I am now showing you the one with the sapphire crystal. And to summarize what I have been saying is that these watches are excellent. They are stunning. In every detail, Omega really kept what a Speedmaster is. Omega did not add anything that was completely or would have been completely unnecessary. They really kept it. Yes, they changed the movement, they opened up the watch, or they made it ready for the future. Yes, true. They did some little changes, they did some little optimizations, left and right. Okay, but still, what do you see on your picture? This is clearly the Omega Speedmaster. Either you want it with the sapphire crystal as shown, so you have two choices. If you buy it with the bracelet, you will have to pay 7,000 euros here in Austria, including 20% VAT. If you decide and say, I don't want the bracelet, and you go for the leather strap instead with a steel deployment buckle, the price is 6,700 euros. And if you now shout out and cry and say, this is too much, etc., etc., no, it is not. Just let me come back to the one chronograph I have been mentioning before of the other brand, the legendary chronograph named after a racetrack in the States. This chronograph is almost sold for the double of the price of the watch you see on your screen. Almost a double price. And now please, use the comment section and please explain me if this watch is double as good. Double as good. Technically and in everything else I have been showing you as the Omega you see on your screen. I'm not talking about the religion that the brand has been meanwhile building up. I'm not talking about the fanboy point of view. I want you to think about the technical point of view. Is really the watch, the other one I've been talking about, the Rolex Daytona, worth almost double the price? I'm not sure. It's something I would like to discuss with you. Go ahead, tell me, think about everything I have been showing you. Think about the fact that this watch is Master Chronometer certified, able to withstand 15,000 Gauss, etc. Perfectly done, perfectly. Only the little flaw we can say, okay, is the non-yet available length adjustment in the clasp. But this is the only flaw I have been finding on the watch. Everything else is perfect. There's nothing to criticize on the watch. Think about it and let me know in the comment section. I just now will put the hesalite here and I will give you the prices for the hesalite. With the hesalite class, the one I would choose, because I just said it before, I don't need that sapphire crystal back. I don't need that. I'm a fan of a puristic watch. I really like it as it is with the hesalite class, also with the fact that there will be some scratches on it. That's how a watch should be. It should have some patina. It should live with you. And the hesalite version starts, if you buy it, with a nylon, black nylon fabric strap and a stainless steel deployment buckle at 5,900 euros, including 20% VAT in Austria. And if you decide to buy it with the completely matte polished bracelet, it sells for 6,200 euros, including 20% VAT. And now the price of 5,900 euros as the basic model. I do ask you, please, if you are now saying it's too much, how could they have the price? And I can hear you argumenting. But please, name me any other brand, name me any other product that is comparable in terms of quality and that is also comparable in a Master Chronometer certification. That's not peanuts. That's something serious. That's really... You have to be a genius, you have to have manpower, you have to have engineering power, you have to have the power of an entire group as the Swatch Group to be able to realize such a project, to transform an existing movement, not to change it, transform it identically and to make it Master Chronometer certified. If you're able to do this, this is what Swatch Group, this is what Omega is doing. And please name me a single watch out there from any other brand, a chronograph, please. Name me one that is sold for 5,900 euros and offers what this Speedmaster in your picture, click, 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 offers. There is none, I can tell you, but please, I'm ready to answer your questions, discuss with you, and I'm more than happy if you use the comment section to discuss it. And I'm happy and I'm looking forward to read your comments. Thanks for watching this video about the new Speedmaster. Please be sure not to miss the one about the Sedna Gold version. And of course, yes, there will be one called Alex Tidbits. Very special, featuring a very particular watch out of my collection. Do not miss to see this one on our channel, and I'm very much looking forward for the next videos. And yeah, stay safe and sound, and see you soon back on WatchAdvisor on YouTube.